Lisa and I'm back with another video. Today I want to share with you my wrap-up of the first quarter. I haven't checked in with reading wrap-ups at all over the year, so I haven't talked about any of the books really that I've been reading, except if you watched my vlogs, and I haven't a lot of those either. So I thought doing a quarterly wrap-up seemed like the best idea, and I'll talk about each of the books in this video so that you can get a little bit of a sense of what I've been reading. Before we get into the books that I was reading, I wanted to talk a little bit about the statistics of the quarter. So yeah, my reading has definitely not been the best as it's been before, but I am, in terms of quality or quantity, so number of books has been slightly lowered, but I feel like I've been better at picking out the books that I wanted to read for myself. So that's a good and that's a plus. So let's get into the statistics at first. In total, over the past 3 months, I've read 16 books. Usually I would read about 10 to 11 books a month, so I'm a little bit behind on that. I read a total of 6,825 pages, and it averages to 426 pages per book. The average length of the books has also been longer than they were last year and last couple of years. I think because the genre I've been picking up has been more my normal type of genre. We'll see when I get along, when we get more into the depths of the statistics. Anyway, in terms of genres, I've read 11 of them were fantasies. I had 2 romantic suspenses, 2 thriller books, and 1 horror book. And in terms of author gender, I had 3 that were male author, and the remaining 13 were female authors. In terms of age group, I had 13 books that were adult books, then I had 2 YA books and 1 middle grade. In terms of publication year, I had 3 that were published in the 2010s, 3 that were published between 2020 and 2024. And I read 9 books from 2025, so I've definitely been catching up to newer releases. And then finally I've read 1 book that was published in 2026. The last and final stats I have here are the ratings, and in terms of ratings, I had 2 books that were 2.5 stars, and I had 1 book that was a 3 stars. I had 2 books that were 3.5 stars. I had 5 books that were 4 stars, I had 4 books that were 4.5 stars, and then I had 2 5-star reads, which gives an average rating of 3.94, which is definitely better than my normal has been for the last couple of years. When I look at the statistics, I'm a little sad about the fact that I haven't read more. Actually, one of the statistics I haven't put down here is to let you know, but I'm even split of audio versus physical reading with all my eyeballs. I have even a 50-50 split on whether it's audio or physical reading, and they are basically more or less all of them, none of them are ebooks. So I'm actually happy with the amount of physical books I've been reading, but usually I would have a bigger margin of audiobooks in my reading statistics, and I just haven't been listening to as much audio as I did before. I only more or less now listen while I'm driving to and from work. Sometimes I've started to do some yard work now, so that might be changing my amount of audio hours. But otherwise, I haven't really been listening as much while I was working, and I think it's because while I still work at the same job, the things that we are doing, it gives me less time to sit and listen to audios while I'm working, because there's less of that generic typing where I don't have to think too much about things, because we have changed the routine so that a lot of it are doing it themselves, if you will, so more of a controlling thing, and it's difficult to explain when you're not in the field, but that's basically one of the reasons why. So I have less of that time, but it doesn't mean that I'm not happy with the books that I've been reading. But sometimes I wish I would have found more time to sit down and read, and I'm definitely doing that now. So hopefully that will change over the next coming months, that I will find more reading time and get more books read in that way. but also the books have generally been longer than my usual. I would say usually I'll be around 350 pages, because there'll always be longer books, but generally all of the books have been more than 400 pages. There are 4 exceptions to that, but the remaining 12 books have been over 400 pages. So that's also a reason why it has been going the way that it has. But let's get started with talking about the books that I was reading and my thoughts about them and why, how I like them. The absolute first book that I finished over the year was Valhalla, Gudernes Land, which is the first book in the Valhalla series, when it's been changed from its original comic book style to this full written novel by Kenneth B. Anderson. And it's the drawings here are still from Peter Madsen, who did the original. So it's a sort of collaboration. So this there are 3 books in this. Each of the books starts out with the original cover pages, which I really loved. And it was a fun time. So I love these. They're really pretty. It was a fun time being back with this world, but I definitely found myself while I was reading it, while I enjoy Kenneth B. Anderson's writing style, and he does this excellently. Personally, I just love the comic book so much that it was difficult for me not to miss the quirky, fun images while I was reading it. And so maybe if it had more of the imagery along the way, and so just have a longer book, but having some of the pictures of the characters along the way, would have been an even better experience. But I missed a little bit of that. But this basically is the first, like, there's a Valhalla animated movie, and this book is basically that, more or less, because it removes one of the stories from the first volume and takes on the 2 Quark novels that was in Valhalla, the Collected Sagas Volume 2, which is the one that I actually own. But I end up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. I definitely still enjoyed my time with it. It was a fun thing to start out with, but I would have preferred a little bit more from it. And obviously this is not translated, so I can't really recommend it to anyone who can't speak Danish, but if you are in Denmark, maybe you can consider reading it. Yeah. The next thing that I read was Missing in the Mountains by Julianne Lindsay. I think I'll put a cover of it up here so that you see the original cover. This is a book. This is the second book in the Fortress Defense series. This is why I got this collection, because I read the first one and really enjoyed it, gave it 4.5 stars. And this second one is also sort of, there's a sort of group of that's called the Fortress Defense. They are helping out with people in need, and they're trying to protect them. So they're protective service kind of thing. And she find out that in the beginning of this book, her sister is abducted, and she's hiding in a cupboard while she's abducted. And so she knows she's quite a bit in danger, so she calls up the Fortress Defense, because she knows the man who sort of started it, but they haven't talked to each other for a long time. So she calls him and yeah, lets him know that she has she is in danger and she needs their protection, and she has a baby, and the baby is actually his. But he doesn't know it, so he has not known about its existence. Yeah, and then, as obviously he takes them in and to protect them, and find out that, but she's interested in figuring out what happened to her sister because she's abducted. So that's why Missing in the Mountains. So she is going missing out there, and they are looking for her and trying to find out what's going on. But as she's searching for these clues, different things happen. They are constantly in some sort of peril, because they are, yeah, they obviously, the one who abducted her sister don't want to be found out, so he is trying to stop them, and with any means possible, and a lot of people actually dies on the way. I really enjoy Julianne Lindsay's writing style. She writes so, she keeps you on the edge of the seat while you're reading, as well as creating sort of romantic situations that you're also rooting for, and I really have enjoyed my time with these books so far. I also love Her Cozy Mysteries, which have some of the vibes from here, but still a little bit different, but I have enjoyed my time with everything I've read by Julianne Lindsay so far, so I'm definitely excited to read on, and I gave this one 4.5 stars, just the same rating as the first one. The next thing that I finished was The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. This is a thriller book. It follows we're following the story of this camp, a summer camp thing, where a girl has disappeared, but it's not just any girl, it's the owner's daughter that disappears, and and now a bunch of years later her brother has also disappeared, in somewhat the same type of fashion, and so they're trying to uncover what happened, and as time goes you find twists and turns and figure out that things are definitely a little bit shady with some of the people, and how are they going to get out of the situation. There's quite a few twists and turns, and so you don't see them coming. But it wasn't my favorite type of book. I'm not in love with this. I didn't really love this, but I also didn't hate it. I felt like it was kind of a middle of the road kind of book. So I ended up giving it 3.5 stars, and I definitely think that's a fair rating for this. It wasn't bad, it wasn't great, absolutely great, but I had fun. I still had an interesting enough time reading it, and will definitely recommend it. Thrillers and stuff isn't my go-to genre, so it might be better for someone else. I've seen a lot of people actually really enjoy it, so maybe you could check it out if you think the topic is interesting, but there are definitely triggers for abuse and stuff like that, so if that's not your thing, maybe stay clear of it. So yeah, anyway, that was my sort of brief wrap up of this. It's been a while since I read it, and so a lot of things have escaped my mind at this point, so sometimes it's difficult to talk about books that were sort of mediocre for you, and it happened like 3 months ago, and I haven't talked about it in a video or anything before. So and the next thing that I finished was Big Little Lies by Liane Moriarty. This is a book that I've owned for so long and not read. I think I got it back in 2017 or something like that. So this is the story about this woman. She is newly moved to this town in Australia, and she has a son who is going to be in, what's it called, kindergarten, preschool, hold on. It was sort of a day where she was sort of introduced to the school. There was sort of it was all like 5-year-olds getting to the start of their school journey and stuff. And she, on her way, she stumbles upon a woman who has a sort of, not broken her ankle, but at least sprained it, I think. And she helps her out, and they get to talk, and they become friends. And then she's swept into this whirlwind thing that happens because her kid is claimed to have bullied a girl, and she doesn't believe he has done that. So because he says he hasn't, and she believes her son, but as things go along, she tries to figure out what's up and down on this, but she doesn't want to she doesn't want to put blame on someone when she doesn't know the whole full story. And then there's a lot of people that are rooting for her, some are rooting for the other girl, and things goes on from there. And she's very much excluded from everything surrounding the kids, and if there's something happening. So it's a lot about women and protectiveness over their kids and things that happen. And then there's this, there's something bad happened at this trivia night, but you don't know what it is, and it's sort of going back in time. So it keeps saying this was like this amount of days before trivia night, and then there's some sort of, with every chapter or something, there's sort of some as if they're talking to a detective or a newspaper agency kind of thing. Nala. Anyway, so you're sort of trying to figure out what was up and down with things, and things escalate a little bit as time goes along. You find out that her kid's dad, no one knows about him except herself, and she opens up about it to someone, and yeah, he's a really bad person. And things like, you see things from all of these girls' perspectives and find out that they are definitely not always so perfect as it seems from the outside. Anyway, it was interesting reading this. I definitely remember there was a lot of hype about this first when I started book 2, but also later on when it became a book, a movie, when they picked it up for a movie. So in that way it was interesting to read this and finally know what was the hype about it. And I understand its merit, and I think that it definitely still has an audience, but I also think that there are some, it's just not my type of book, so I don't think I'm gonna pick up more Liane Moriarty's books in the future. But I gave it 3.5 stars because I definitely enjoyed my time with it and was immersed in the story. But at the same time, and it was quite fast actually to read it when you picked it up, but it wasn't one that I was gravitating towards picking up constantly. So it was good while I was reading it, but also not better than that. The next thing that I finished was Thankless in Death by J.D. Robb. This is next book in the series. We are following the police detective Eve Dallas in New York in 2045, 2050-ish time. It is around Thanksgiving, and Eve is there's this man who has murdered his own mother. He's one of those people that never does anything. He is he doesn't think that it's necessary for him to do anything. He doesn't want to do an effort, and so he thinks that people have been letting him down because they don't give him everything, and he can't just sit around doing nothing all day. So his parents are trying to push him to actually find a job, to do something while he's been living at home, but he just gets so infuriated with them that he ends up accidentally stabbing his mother in the stomach with a knife, and then finds out he gets a real joy of it, so he keeps stabbing her until she's like dead. And then he waits around until his father come home and sort of smashes him with a sort of baseball bat, and thinks that this is fun. He got a real excitement of this. He could be a good assassin. So he decides that he sort of collects all of the valuables that they have, sells them, whatever, so he can get something, and then he goes and stays in a hotel over the next couple of nights, and finds out that he could do this. But before he gets into the assassin job kind of thing, he wants to go through a list of people who've wronged them, like previous exes, previous friends, school teachers who flunked him and stuff like that. So it's a big long list of things, and Eve is trying to figure out what's going on with this, because she obviously knows this is him, that he's doing it, but he can't find him because he's changed his alias, he's changed his he doesn't have a known address, and he's changed his name. So she can't really just find him, but she's trying to figure out with a sort of psychological profile thing to figure out who he is, and trying to follow his footsteps in that way and figure out where he is and how, and stop him before he does more harm. And yeah, so it's an interesting enough mystery, and there are definitely some things that happens with Eve that I really enjoyed, like the psychological things that happen, some things that happened with Eve and the characters, and she's like dealing with some things that I thought was interesting in terms of getting her to in terms of getting her to sort of get better. She's also still struggling from things that happened in her childhood. She's not having an easy life so far, so I like that she's constantly sort of working on herself in a way, and getting further and further with each book. And I like that aspect of it. It's not my favorite book in the series, but I've definitely enjoyed it, and I always do, so I end up giving it 4.5 stars. So I definitely recommend this series if you haven't started, but if you want to read it, you should be in for the long haul, because this is book 39, I believe, and there are like 60 something books published in this series, so it takes a long time to get caught up. And that's been my issue, but I have been enjoying my time with it every time I pick something up. So I haven't decided against it, but obviously it's difficult for me when I have so many books in this series and getting caught up and finishing it. I hope she has a finish date in mind, because yeah, that would be better than just continue on indefinitely and not having a fully finished story because she passes away at some point. Even though I don't like that thought, she will inevitably. So yeah, anyway, gave it 4.5 stars, so enjoyed my time with it. Let's get on with the next. The next thing that I finished was Red City by Maria Lu. This is the first full novel that I've finished by her, and it's the first time she's delved into the adult fantasy genre. It's fantasy romance, so you should know that there's a lot of sort of a big romance impact in the story, but as well as also some good fantasy elements. In this book we are following a couple of characters. There are 2 of them that are childhood friends, and then they are delved into this world of alchemy and magic and things like that. We have one she comes from a poor family. Her mother has no money, but she's trying everything to get money, and then suddenly she's swept into this world and starts saving money up for in order to like make a living and send money to her mother so she can get covered, and things escalate and things happen from there. You're sort of in the beginning listening from 4 different narrators. I like that aspect of it. You can sort of hear the different point of views. This book sort of focuses heavily on alchemy magic, and that's the sort of magic system that we have in this. It's very dark, and it's a sort of lots of blood stuff happening as well, and there's a lot of people who are very powerful who sort of rules this whole thing, obviously, and she's trying to find her way in this without giving away her own personality, and things happen on the way, and yeah, it was actually super surprised. I was super surprised about how much I enjoyed my time with it. The audio was really good, as I said. I think the audio was really good because it was narrated by multiple different narrators. There were at least 4 different narrators over the book that I could hear the distinctive different voices, and that made it an excellent read. And I enjoyed my time listening and reading this. Red City was a really good solid read, and I was happy to have discovered Marie Lu finally. I have read a short story by her that I really enjoyed, and I've read parts of a YA novel, and I don't know if I'm ever gonna go and read the whole thing. We'll see. But I definitely enjoyed my time with this one, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, so I'm definitely intrigued to know what's gonna happen in the next book. The next thing I read was The Amber Owl by Julia Marilia. This was a book that I was really hyped for last year because I just discovered Julia Marilia the year before after reading Daughter of the Forest, and this is her newest work, and it's the first in the series, and we are again following sort of a whimsical folklore type of fantasy book set in Ireland. There is sort of a guy who's trying to control everyone, and then finally our main character, she's a woman, she starts to speaking up and make them see reason and start to change things, but he's not about that, and he tries to make her life miserable. And overall, it wasn't my favorite. I was a little bit disappointed by it, actually. I had so high hopes for it, so I was a little bit let down, and I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. And it's not that it was bad, but it was just when my expectations were so high, I definitely expected something different, and they weren't met. So I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars, but it definitely might be something for someone else, so I'm not writing it off if you think that it might be interesting. Maybe it will be good for you, even if you have read Julia Marilia before. I'll definitely consider it, but maybe don't go in with the highest of expectation, and maybe you'll find yourself actually really enjoying it. The next book that I read was Shield of Sparrows by Daphne Parrott. This is the first book in a series where I was trying, where I did a vlog where I was trying out popular fantasy romance books. And so I started picking this one up, Shield of Sparrow by Daphne Perry. This is the first in the series, and it was very popular. It came out last year. It follows Odessa. She is been brought up sort of in the shadows. She's been kept in the dark a little bit about a lot of things that goes on in terms of political court intrigue and stuff that happens in this land. But then she's also a little bit rebellious and tries to do things her own way. But then one day there's these sort of monsters raving around the land, and the king, who's her father, has sort of struck up a deal with another country or region or whatever you call it in this, another kingdom, and they have decided that she's to marry the next of, like, the crown prince of this region. Like, her sister is going to marry the crown prince of this region if they catches some of these monsters that's hunting their lands. And obviously that ends up happening, but then the deal changes, and suddenly it's Odessa, our main character, who is going to be marrying this prince. Then she's married and she's swept up into this other land, knowing nothing about the world and hasn't been brought up in anything, but she's told that she has to find answers to this place, and she has to give this back, and act sort of as a spy to give this back to her father. And on the way there, she discovers a lot of things. There's a lot of found family elements in this one, and obviously there's a big romance plot in this, and there's a lot of monster attacks and stuff happening, and I really enjoyed my time getting to know the world building aspects of this. The character work was really done well, and I enjoyed my time getting to know both our main female lead and our male romance interest, and the way that they sort of formed their relationship. It was very much of a slow burn. We had, like, it was not until like the last 100 to 150 pages is that something romantic started happening, and it was, for me, there was a translated work that I was reading from, and it was 600 something pages, so a lot of pages had gone by the time that anything like that happened, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it as well. So you really got to know the characters, you really got to feel for them, you got to experience the yearning towards the other, and yeah, enjoy my time with it. And I'm surprised to say that I actually ended up crying a little bit when I was reading it. I don't do that often, but apparently this one, it pulled the emotions out of me, and I ended up giving it 5 out of 5 stars. I sat on it a little bit, and I ended up giving it 5 stars because I definitely think it deserved it, and I'm really looking forward to reading on in this series. So it surprised me quite a lot, actually. The next thing that I finished was Illusions of Fire by Nisha Sharma. This is the first book in a young adult series. It is sort of as if Buffy, but set in sort of Indian folklore stuff type version of it. It was so fun. It was the big, like, I really loved my time getting to know these characters. This world was really good, and there's a lot of things happening all the time. It's very action packed, and the Buffy fan in me really saw the similarities, but I didn't feel like it was making, like, it was Buffy at the same time. So I definitely enjoyed my time with it, and we have this, it was so much fun. I had a lot of time with this one. As I said, it was action packed. We have sort of, it's not enemies to lovers necessarily, because it's like we are in the YA territory, but definitely our male lead finds out that there's something to her, and she might be dangerous. So he actually in the beginning wants to kill her, but he finds out that there's must be more to it, and they're sort of combined in this thing that happens, and they have to save the world together. And yeah, it was a lot of fun reading this, and I had a lot of time with it, and I would have given it, I think I gave it 4.5 stars again. It was really a good, solid read, and I enjoyed my time listening to it, and I cannot wait to see what's gonna happen next in the series, because I think it's I don't know if it's a trilogy or what it is, but it's definitely going to be more books in the series. The next thing that I finished was Bat Eater and Other Words for Cora Sang. Not other words, but other names for Cora Sang. This is a horror book. It's set in prime time of COVID. we have it's like 2021-ish, and everyone in America are blaming the Chinese people for the COVID situation, and no matter where they are, and because of their eating habits. And obviously she's a bad eater, our main character, and she's blamed for a lot of things, and because of her heritage. There's a lot of things going on in this, and it's horror in a way that I didn't expect, and we like the people around her are horrible, and then there are people stalking her and things happening around her, and there's a sort of demon possessed kind of thing that happens. Yeah, it really was a very interesting horror book. As again, I haven't read a whole lot of horror. I've read quite a lot of Stephen King, but I haven't delved into a lot of other books in the horror genre, so I definitely don't have a good amount of books that I've read before, but I really enjoyed my time with this. I definitely want to read more by the author. The author is called Kylie Lee Baker, I believe, and I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars, so I definitely was intrigued the whole way through. This is one of the shorter books that I read, and I had a blast reading this, kind of, but also quite uncomfortable at some of the scenes that happen in this one. So I definitely want to read more by the author, and if you're used to reading horror and haven't picked it up, maybe get your hands on this and read it, because I definitely want to recommend it. Yeah, but there's definitely a lot of racism things happening that was really uncomfortable to read. Yeah, but also just in general, people being horrible to our main character. So and with everything going on around her, apart from that, yeah, it was unsettling. The next thing that I finished was The Strength of the Few by James Islington, the second book in the Hierarchy series. This is a series that follows Viz. Viz is an orphan. He's hiding his identity, and he's picked up by this man and comes into this school where he learns about the magical ability. The magical is built on, like, the hierarchy has sort of taken over the land, and they are the different castes of characters, obviously, and they have more power the higher up in the ranks that you are, and they sort of receives will from other people. So yeah, the magic system built on this will. I don't think I explained it very well before. And this one continues right after the end of this first book. There's a big cliffhanger thing that happens towards the end of the first book, and it continues immediately, and goes on and on and on. And it's interesting. We are at 3 different places in this one. We find out, and we're still following this in all of these 3 places. I don't know how spoiler territory I'm in at this point, but we're introduced to a bunch of new characters, and I think that that's the thing that probably didn't meet my current expectations. There's a lot of things going on with the plot. Obviously, we still had the very interesting world building happening. There's an expansion of the world that we didn't obviously see in the first one, because of the fact that we're in 3 different places and 3 different cultural, and there's a lot of different aspects to it. But it still found myself, every time I went back to the original point of view with the original characters, that's where I was most comfortable and what I enjoyed the most, because I knew these characters from the first book, and I didn't have enough time to really build a lot of care towards the new characters we were introduced to, even though I wanted to. So there are definitely less of the other point of views that I found intriguing as the time went on. But I still enjoyed it enough that I want to read it, obviously, and continue, and I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars, so I didn't hate it, but it was definitely not meeting my expectation quite as much as I thought it would, but I enjoyed my time with it anyway. The next thing that I finished was Brimstone by Kelly Hart, the second book in the Fae and Alchemy, or Alchemy and Fae series. I've forgotten which way around it is. This is the second book in the series, and we are following a woman who is set in a world where we know about the things that goes around, like the Fae and sort of like that. But we're following a girl. She's very poor and she has no money. She is trying everything she can do to survive, and suddenly one day she is about to die, and she's swept off into the Fey world by Kingfisher, and he is a Fey prince king thing, and has alchemy powers, and she has alchemy powers as well, she finds out, and lots of things goes on. And this is the second book, and I can't talk much about the plot of this without spoiling things that happen, but my main complaint about this book is I felt like it was endlessly long, and I probably could have been rooting more for it if it had been slightly less repetitive, some of the things that happened. But on the other side, I still really enjoyed some of the plot points that happen in here, and enjoy my time with it in general, and I will be continuing it because I have enjoyed it, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. So it's a little bit like the previous one, but I'm happy I've continued in so many series. And yeah, the next thing that I finished was Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This was the second book that I read for the vlog that I mentioned before with Shield of Sparrows, and this is the first book in the, what is it called? I don't remember. It's not called Fourth Wing. Imperial series or something like that. We are following our main character. It's actually, I found out that this and Shield of Sparrows have been compared a lot because they are similar. And they are in the fact that we are following a girl who's been brought up wanting to be a scribe, going to scribe school, but then her mother decides, no, none of her kids are ever gonna be not a dragon rider. So she throws her into the dragon rider school, because none of her kids will be not a dragon rider. Either she's going to become a dragon rider or she's gonna die trying. That's sort of how she's handled in that. And she goes on to this dragon rider school thing, and becomes acquainted with our main hero called, so I'm right in calling him Xaden. Now Xaden is a sort of a leader of this, and further on in the program or whatever, and is known as a ruthless dragon rider. And in the beginning they definitely hate each other, but then she is she is bonding with a dragon that is mated with his dragon, and in that way they are connected and they get to know each other. And I love my time getting to know the dragons. The dragon bonds were fun. They were really funny, having this weird bond, and there was a lot of actually found family elements as well in this one, as there was in the Shield of Sparrows as well. I like that aspect of it as well. So I had a good time with this as well. I was really surprised about how much I enjoyed it, and I flew through it in a way. I was very busy at the time, but I definitely enjoyed my time with it. I kept wanting to pick it up, and I ended up giving it 5 out of 5 stars, just as the other one, and was surprised about that myself. But I'm looking forward to reading on in the series. But I've heard that she's good at making cliffhangers. I know she did that in Fourth Wing, and she's definitely going to do that probably the next one as well, and the next one again. So I have some books to go to, so that I don't have to wait around too long for the next book, because I know she sort of has a break in between writing her Fourth Wing Empyrean books. Yeah, so that was another hit for me. The next thing that I finished was The River Has Roots by Amal El-Mohtar. This one, I wanted to really love this. It's a very, very short novella. It was published last year as well, and it I didn't love it, and I honestly disliked the audio so much. The audio is praised by people, and I guess I understand it, but there's a lot of extra sound. There are sort of whistling water sounds in the background. There's music happening in the background. We have a lot of singing actually, and I hate it when that happens in my books. I cannot distract. I think it's too distracting to me, and I cannot focus completely on the audio, and it grates a little bit on my nerves. And so I never really enjoyed this book, and I give it 2.5 stars. So felt a little bit bad about that, but it's just not for me. But definitely, if you think it looks interesting, if you heard about it, pick it up. It's very short, so it won't take a lot of your time anyway. We have 2 more books to talk about. The first one is Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas. This is the last and final book that I read for this vlog that I did, and This is the first book in the Throne of Glass series. I have had this book for so long. I think also again, like since 2016-ish. It's been so hyped, and I've been so worried about picking it up because I've actually read some other books by Sarah J Maas and didn't love them. I read Court of Thorns and Roses, and I read Court of Mist and Fury, and DNF'd it halfway through-ish. And I just never got on to her writing style. So I picked this up hoping that I would feel differently, but ended up actually not enjoying it very much. We're following Selena. Selena is an assassin. She was an assassin as in her very youth, and then she was captured and became a slave. But now she's been picked out to join a competition to become the king's champion, and things like that. My issue with her is that the writing to me is not super engaging. Her character work doesn't give me anything. I had no feelings towards the characters. I didn't care what happened to them actually, and that really annoyed me. And there was in the beginning part, I was thinking that some of it reminded me of Poison Study by Maria V. Snyder, and I think they were published at around the same time. And then I started thinking about how many ways I think the Poison Study did better than this, or I wanted to be more. I needed to get that sort of feeling that I had when I read the Poison Study, and I just didn't. So I was really disappointed about that. I am gonna continue because I have the second book, but I don't know when it's gonna be, because I've heard that people say that the next book's actually gonna be better and the series becomes better as the time goes. So I'll give Crown of Midnight a chance, and then we'll see what happens after that. But this one got a 2.5 stars from me, so a little bit sad about that. The last and final book that I read in this quarter was 12 Months by Jim Butcher, the most recent book in the Dresden Files series. I didn't actually know that he was planning on publishing a book. I've been very out of the loop with that. But then suddenly saw that he was publishing 12 Months, and he did that. I think I noticed it late last year, and he published it I think in January or something like that, and I listened to it in March. I had to sort of finish a couple of things before I could get around to it. But I really enjoyed my time with it. Again, this is my favorite audio narrator of all time, and so getting back into the world, it was just like coming home, a comfort blanket time of thing. The thing is, the last book was a lot of things that happened in the last two books were very epic scale, a lot of action-packed things happening, and things that happened that was mind-blowing and difficult. And so this book sort of had to be a book where everything could settle again, and we could start over with a new plot that that's going to come in the next later books. So in this one, Harry is grieving. He is sadly grieving a lot, and obviously because of what happened, one of the things that happened in the end of the previous book. And it makes sense that he's acting this way, so it's good that Jim Butcher gave the character the chance to actually going through this and getting through this and working his way up again, so that we could actually follow Harry's emotional journey with this. But still, a lot of things happens with some action-packed things that happen towards as the book goes along, obviously, but it's not the big scale kind of things that happened in the previous books. So I'm happy to say that I enjoyed my time with it, but it was my favorite. But I ended up giving it 4.5 stars because I really had enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to reading on in it. I think that is gonna be a couple of books coming out soon. I don't think there's gonna be as long between the books now as there was before. But I'm happy to say that there's at least a new book here, and I enjoy my time with it. So if you haven't picked it up yet, definitely do. If you haven't checked out Dresden Files, highly recommend it. You won't be disappointed, I think. And yeah, so those are all the things that I've read over the past quarter. Let me know in the comments down below if you read any of the books that I've been talking about today, and if you did, what were your thoughts about them? Do you agree with my thoughts? Are there any books that you read over the past quarter that you absolutely loved that you would like to recommend to me? Also let me know about that in the comments down below. And if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video very soon. Goodbye.